Good morning again. Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing another video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know. And that is a follow-up to a previous video I made about imagination, with a special emphasis, as I have in many of my videos. That special emphasis in this case is the hokey pokey. You've heard of that? Well, it's not what you think. This isn't going to be the nursery rhyme, but the idea of something being hokey as in not believable, incredible, uncredible, and the pokey being slang for jail. The hokey pokey then, put them together, would be an idea that jail's not real. And that's a segue to a serious subject where many people, turns out, haven't been to jail. And other people have, which, as an aside, doesn't necessarily mean they're guilty of something. It just means that they have awaited trial sometimes, formally, and technically you're not necessarily guilty until you've been convicted of something according to our law. But that's an aside. The hokey pokey is an idea, it's a bigger idea actually, where people, especially law enforcement people, many of them have not actually been in the jails. They've worked around and in the jails, but they've not actually been incarcerated. They've not actually been imprisoned or detained themselves. Some of them, most of them actually. And here's the thing about imagination. I want to connect this with the idea of imagination, where until sometimes you see something, or I see something, or anybody, you don't necessarily understand it or believe it until after you've experienced it. I will invoke Biggie Smalls here, who said famously, "The hard-headed got to feel it to believe it." So what did he mean by that? The hard-headed got to feel it to believe it. I think he means that experience is a good teacher, but not for everybody, right? The hard-headed need that experience. And turns out a lot of people have a figurative hard head where they got to experience something to understand it, but not everybody. Now here's the upside. Imagination is huge. Imagination helps us understand something without necessarily experiencing it, especially if it's, a painful, difficult thing. You can anticipate that before doing it. I've talked at length in previous videos about hypothesizing, envisioning things, imagining them, such that you don't have to actually try everything. You just make a plan that hopefully works without too much pain and follow through with it. That's normally how it goes, right? This should be obvious, I think. But the hokey pokey, back to the idea of that, it's surprising and shocking that many of these law enforcement people and people in general have no grasp of the terribleness of imprisonment. And it's terrible. No, it's terrible. I have been falsely arrested before. I've been falsely imprisoned, and I don't need to get into all that, but I will actually say that the trauma is real. It's an injury. It just being in a cell is an injury. Your will is being subverted. First of all, it's humiliating. At best, it's humiliating. And at worst, you're actually getting injured, not just by the environment, but the people. Obviously, that's one of the famous scare tactics is you have to defend yourself, and that part is usually true, even in jail. But the thing about it is, people don't understand that just being detained is traumatic by itself. And while Americans in this part of the world were guaranteed, in a legal sense, a right to a speedy trial, it doesn't always play out that way. And one person's speedy isn't necessarily the court's idea of speedy. And it turns out, I can speak from experience, it takes, on average, if you're not bailing out, it takes you up to about 4 months. They'll get you out of there in 4 months. And there won't be an apology. There won't be repayment or restitution. There won't be reimbursement of time lost, jobs lost, people lost. And there won't be any acknowledgement of the trauma. There won't be any kind of, like I said, nothing whatsoever. The best case, if you're charged with something and arrested and you're awaiting trial, you're going to, be traumatized and kicked out in 4 months with no charges. Best case around here, unless you bail out. And that makes no sense. I mean, how does money make you less guilty? It makes no sense. The whole system needs complete and total reform, and I'm not going to dive into all that right here, but I could. I have enough material and experience to write several books on the subject, unfortunately. And while it's not my first interest, it has become such a persistent and painful thorn in my side and my family's side that I have no choice but to consider it and deal with it a little bit and make videos, if nothing else. So I'm going to continue communicating my experiences, and with my pen, I will affect as much change as I possibly can. I don't advocate violent change, but I do recommend people defend themselves by whatever means necessary. You should always defend yourself if it's legitimate, right? It's justifiable to defend yourself. And we're at a point where we have a very abusive and corrupt authority. I'm not lying. I'm not going to hold that back. It's true. They are ignorant as to the things they're even doing, and they are wildly abusing their power knowingly and unknowingly. So if you find yourself on the receiving end of that, you have my sympathy, and I advise you to defend yourself, because you don't deserve necessarily to be abused by anybody. Doesn't matter who. So we're going to get to the bottom of this, and it's not about me. It's about the next guy, right? At some point, it has to be about future generations. If you care about your kids, if you care about, tomorrow, moving forward, having some kind of world to look forward to, it's not so much about you anymore. And if you participate in that world, that's just icing on the cake at some point, right? So I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to persuade people, but I want to be transparent in my experiences and the things that being a former father and husband have required me to be, in the responsibility that those jobs require. So I have a lot to say about it, and I'm going to keep saying it. So reach out if you have questions or comments to whiteheartrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.